So we are doing a combined SIG here. Typically, the AWS SIG and Google SIG, Kubernetes SIG, they're all different. And today for the summit, we'll do it all together. And Ben has been running the AWS SIG. I think Vishal has been running the Google one. And I think the Kubernetes was being done by Salesforce. So for the online people to log in, they just go to the Zoom on the thing? Yeah. So mainly, we'll do it similar to what we have done in the morning. If there are any big issues that we want to discuss, we can touch on those. And then we can discuss what has been going on for the last 1 year or 6 months with specific cloud drivers. And what are the things that we want to discuss going forward in terms of roadmap.
I'll be the runner, the first runner. There you
go. Cool. So in terms of supported providers, there's a lot. Have we talked about maybe deprecating some, or at least moving them into like a state that, like, you know, can maybe surface some people to help maintain it? Like I see Oracle, DCOS, right? Like I've never used App Engine, and the Google Cloud one isn't really working either. So
the Google Cloud actually,
it doesn't work with shared VPC, which is any enterprise at this point like is using, right? So
yeah, so there is active work that is going on with the Google Cloud. So we can actually discuss. I think it has not been well documented on the website. There are a bunch of PRs that were raised in the last 3-4 months on a continuous basis for them. So one of the engineers is also online, Kiran. He's been actually working on those. So there is a new support for Cloud Run for Google, and there were enhancements with the load balancer settings and some additional options for deploying VMs. So those are all done for the Google Cloud in the last few months. So if there are specific issues like the VPC, shared VPC, that's something that's missing, definitely they can take it up.
But I guess like more so like we're working. That's an active work, but like some of them that I don't know anyone using
Oracle, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Google Cloud one was just like, this one's just not working. Yeah, but the other ones were, okay, I see, yeah. Yeah, well, it's always hard to, like, in my opinion, open source, when you release something, it's very hard to deprecate anything. Like, you could say someone's not using something, but a lot of the times, like, someone in the far corners of the universe is probably using it. So it's difficult, right? So, you know, because we have released it, I'm more prone to say we probably should just support it, unless there's no maintainers or active yeah, if that's the issue, then we probably should look for someone that's willing to do that. And if not, then we could probably just say, hey, this is unmaintained, but, you know, it's not deprecated. You know, I'd rather go that route because, and then if no one decides to actually ever pick that up, then I feel like we can then start going towards that path. But I think just to say, you know, like, oh, we should just deprecate these at this point, I think it's a little too soon. Even though I don't think I've ever used the Oracle cloud, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and it would make our lives easier, like developing accounts across Cloud Driver, and obviously testing, right, makes testing a lot easier, and we have to test for less things. But yeah, like I said, due to the nature of open source, I like to keep things like as when they're released to be, you know, as supported as it can be. And if we do deprecate, give customers at least a good amount of time to say, hey, we're thinking about deprecating this. At least create a GitHub issue, see if anyone responds, see what the community thinks, and maybe kind of go maybe towards that path, and kind of see what people think. I'd be more open to that if that would work.
Could we as a community maybe decide, let's say, what is well maintained, what needs love?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better way instead of
Perfect.
saying,
Yeah.
Here,
Yep.
saying, like, this is what we have people. We have people
Yeah, yeah.
What's missing? Did we even have a conversation with you, right?
Hmm.
Maybe that's a better bet.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I definitely think that's I think out of everything, I've seen a lot more movement like the AWS, and I've seen some movement on the Google Cloud one. That's what kind of shocked me, like that you said it wasn't working. But yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I'll go. I can create that issue, and we could just say, hey, listen, these are the things that we see that people are actively working on and are maintained. Do we have anyone in the community that's willing to, accept or help drive be a maintainer of this, or what have you, and kind of go with that path forward. So yeah.
Is the governance place to submit like that for, like if you want to submit that issue?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Cool. So
Yeah, we could also see these the cadence that we have with the SIGs.
mhm.
We can see if we can combine them. I think that was one of the proposals saying today is even Kubernetes is regularly run, but other SIGs they're not necessarily regularly run. Participation also matters, right? So what we could do is we can combine those,
Mhm.
and when the issues come up, based on that, we can create a project if needed be, but use a combined SIG so we have a better coverage on those.
Yeah, since I don't have a lot of experience like on the Google Cloud side of things, especially with the Cloud Driver portion, is there a GitHub issue that highlights all the things that you're talking about that doesn't work? Because if there's not, then yeah, if you could create one, that would be fantastic.
There are rumblings across various issues of like shared VPC support,
Hmm.
and usually it goes like, oh, that's gonna be a refactor, and then it kind of
Oh, fizzles out. Yeah, yeah.
because like it works very well, but
Hmm.
at enterprise scale, Google Cloud's pushing shared VPC almost in every enterprise doc I've seen.
Okay, okay.
Like it needs to be built in like into like even the load balancers. Load balancers work if they're not in shared VPC, specifically the newer era of like the Envoy based ones. But again, it's just like what is kind of like the cycle on it? Like when do we close these issues, or when do we say like, hey, we're gonna like I see a lot of projects consolidating issues because it's also a bad image to have like 300 issues and then like yeah we'll get to it and it fizzles out versus like hey I saw this we're gonna move it to this main thread.
Yeah, yeah.
This main thread.
Yeah. So for the Google, for example, we do run triage once a month. So if you do raise an issue, we'll tag it and then keep it alive. If that requires an RFC, then or some proposal with it, we could do that. So you're right. Some of these issues that come up, if they don't address them immediately, they go stale and then get someone has to just close them. But some of them, we need to keep them alive. And so regular triage, I think one of the things that we will do with the SIGs will be the triage of issues and identify which ones need some love and which ones need more information before we can do anything with them.
We have a question from Ashley Kleinhans. Google Cloud was working up until Spinnaker 1.28.1. It only stopped working in Spinnaker 1.29.0. I've created an issue on GitHub for it.
Yeah. So there were issues that with the 129 build. The fixes PR were raised, but I think we are waiting on one other issue to be fixed to correct.
Sorry, the fix for Cloud Driver not starting with the Google Cloud Provider enabled is fixed. There's been a PR raised. It's merged to master. It's backported to the 129 branch. But it's true. There's another problem. I think if it's Ashley asking this question, we're still trying to fix the variety of things that were happening in that clone dialog box in the AWS provider. And some of them are fixed, and some of them are fixed and merged, and some of them are also fixed and not merged. And then there are a couple left that we're still trying to figure out. This is all why I've been trying to find Spinnaker UI experts out there. They're in short supply, but we're doing the best we can.
Any other issues that come to mind with the community that we wanted raise?
Yeah, I think for me, with AWS, because I know David's put out some PRs that I saw, but I didn't know about the clone issue with the front end of it. That's definitely an issue that we've had. Well, we had one engineer, I forgot who it was, but she's done an excellent job with. I think she works at AWS. She's done an excellent job with both the UI and the back end. Have you been able to ping her at all? Okay, all right. Here you go.
Maybe we're all talking about the same person, but there's someone named Pratibha who works for AWS, whose job at various times has been to make improvements to Spinnaker, and she's made a bunch. And yes, a lot of it has been on the Java side, and then there's also been some on the UI side. She's definitely much more of a Java person, and we can all sort of do the thing where we like crawl around in a dark room and try to find our way, which is I don't want to say that's what she did, but that's what I would have done. And she got it 95% right. And this is some like sort of gnarly corner case about field invalidation and other validation logic. And, when you touch a field and you dirty it and you display the message at the right time. And anyway, so she's, like all of us, juggling priorities about internal things and external things. And she's totally committed to fixing this. And we've tracked down people that are sort of all in the most difficult time zones possible to collaborate with her. She's, I think, on the East Coast of the US. So we're getting there. And I guess we could release 1.29.1 with that stuff partially fixed. The Google Cloud Provider thing, like I said, is fixed. And there's another deck issue that's also fixed. So it might be worth getting it out there. It just seems like we're so close, and everybody was here anyway, so it didn't really seem like we're going to do it today or yesterday. So I know it's really bad to have a .0 version out there that's busted, or any version out there that's busted, but it feels like it's better to wait. It feels like we're so close that I'd rather wait. It's also hard enough to turn the crank on releasing a new thing that I don't really want to do it twice if I can avoid it.
Are there at least like test builds that we can run? Like, is that like, do we have like a process like do an RC and like run it in eager candidates? Maybe not exposing to the community like 1.29.1, right? But maybe we say like 1.29.RC1, and like if people want to try it, give some feedback. Maybe we can even find things before we merge in. Like again, we all are in different environments, so.
Yeah, I mean it's true. Somebody could find stuff with 1.29.1. I'm trying to get to the point that every time we find a bug and we fix it, somebody adds an automated test. So at least that bug doesn't come back. It would be just as much work to publish an RC as it is to publish a real thing. And it would actually be more because I'm not sure we have a way to publish a bomb that Halyard would consume. But on every single PR merge to master, Docker images do get published and Debian packages do get published. So at least in one way, they are out there. It takes a little more ingenuity to use them. It's not as easy as, how deploy apply. You have to do a little bit of maybe construct your own bomb to drag it down there. We'd love to get there. A mono repo would definitely help with this stuff. I don't know.
All right, cool. Well, it sounds like for the Google Cloud stuff, and this is also true for the AWS stuff, is like I feel like we need like more integration tests like on those platforms, which would definitely catch like a lot of these issues. So yeah, maybe that's something that we can put like in maybe like our roadmap to kind of get that process started. We've talked a little, me and Cameron have been talking a little bit about testing. So that's definitely something that we can think about and figure out, what the best path forward to that would be. So yeah.
Actually, Carl from Salesforce also has a issue that's raised for the integration tests. So there have been this Google Cloud Build based tests. I think it required very specific integrations, and we lost some of the functionality for the integration test there. That's definitely an issue that we need to address.
Yep, exactly. So I just wanted to say that before the previous build process broke, we did publish nightly unvalidated heads of master. So there should be a way for Halyard to consume the unvalidated bombs, so we could create release candidates, etc., in order to give them testing. Back to David's point, though, it's just as much work to release a release candidate as a final build. So it's yeah.
Got another question from the virtual group. Is there any GitHub source code for blue-green deployment with AWS EKS using Spinnaker deployment? I'm looking for best architecture solution to implement blue-green strategy.
Wouldn't that just be a Kubernetes thing, like for EKS? Like I feel like that's what that would be. They said EKS, I thought, right? Yeah, just Kubernetes. Yeah, so they should be able to do that just with like Kubernetes in itself. Unless was there anything more that they wanted to add to that? Okay.
Yeah. Is there any GitHub source code for blue-green deployment with AWS EKS using Spinnaker deployment? I'm looking for best architecture solution.
They want to deploy the Spinnaker second instance and then switch.
Yeah, I wonder if the question is about Spinnaker itself or.
Spinnaker itself seems like. Wait, Spinnaker blue-green?
No, I think it's just their deployments.
I think I know, at least I have something constructive to say if it's like a regular deployment, like a target deployment. So the fact that it's AWS EKS, I think is maybe a little bit of a distractoid. It's a Kubernetes thing. It probably doesn't matter whether it's running Amazon's Kubernetes or anybody else's. I don't know if it's fair to inject this into the conversation, but I have gathered over the course of this conference that there are, I think, 3 companies who have implemented some kind of Argo rollouts integration into Spinnaker. And I think all of them are still private, and I would love to figure out a way to like not have to have a 4th company have to do this and take the best of all 3 and maybe do some what I think are fixes in the Kubernetes provider to make it possible for them to be better and have a real Argo rollouts thing. And then, yes, it is just a Kubernetes problem to have Argo rollouts do the blue-green deployment, but for Spinnaker to say like kube control apply manifest and to get the Argo rollouts thing down there is one thing, and then to have, Spinnaker to understand, how it's progressing and when it's finished and if it fails and did it go blue or did it go green, and there's some finesse there. So there's some code to write, and I'd love to get that out there to make it to have an easier answer to this question. I mean, there are lots of ways to do blue greens in Kubernetes. Argo rollouts is just one of them, but it'd be nice to have at least that answer because, like I said, I think 3 companies have done it and other people are asking, so we'd at least have a story to tell, which we don't have today.
I was going to say that, I have a team of junior engineers learning Spinnaker, and a lot of the things that they are looking at is it's something I'll bring up in the DocSig later, but the code labs need a good scrubbing. Any other project like Argo or something at least gives you the baseline of how to do blue-green. But saying hey, how to integrate Spinnaker with blue-green, write an article on it and try and follow it. I think the GCE one's kind of bumpy, right? The Oracle one's there, cleaning those up, providing people with a base template. We do it all the time. I saw today, we spun up 3 different pipelines in the contributor summit, right? So we take a lot of things for granted because we live this world. But when someone's first seeing this, they're just trying to figure out how these dots connect, in that world.
Yeah, it's
a docs thing.
Well, yeah, this is a hard problem. I don't think this problem can be solved by documentation.
No.
Spinnaker has a built-in blue-green with the Kubernetes, right? With the replica set.
With the V1 provider that doesn't exist anymore, right?
No, with the V2.
Uh-huh.
You can say blue-green with the replica set, but it doesn't support the deployments with that blue-green, and also it doesn't support load balancers with that blue-green. For the service, it automatically switches. It's a once checkbox, you say, switch it.
Right. I guess I'll go out on a limb and say right. This is not the do what I want button for very many people.
Yeah.
It was a good question.
I guess what I'm getting out of this is that I don't know if that's what they were asking, because like I said, it was a little vague, but from what I'm gathering from what you're saying, though, is that Spinnaker needs a better way of being able to provide blue-green deployments to the end user. Is that correct?
For Kubernetes.
For Kubernetes, sorry, for just, Kubernetes, yeah.
I mean, the AWS provider does have
Yeah,
a
it's
variety of strategies,
Mhm.
but the Kubernetes provider, it has this replica set-based one, but yeah, people use deployments and then deployments make replica sets. So
Yeah.
this is a gap in the Kubernetes provider.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. Oh, we have another question.
Person, what are the deployment strategies supporting Spinnaker?
Yeah. So questions are, what are the deployment strategies that, it says, what are the deployment strategies support Spinnaker? I think, what are the deployment strategies for Spinnaker? This either could be for Spinnaker. Yeah. So how do you manage deployments how did you manage the deployments in Spinnaker? So it's asking about deployments that Spinnaker does. So for the EKS question. I think to answer the first question, which if I understand it correctly, it's what does Spinnaker support for deployments? I think that's what they're asking. So if that's not correct to you, please let me know, because I'm going to try to answer that first. So Spinnaker supports a few cloud providers. We listed quite a few of them already, AWS being one of them, Google Cloud being another major one. And then the less used ones that were mentioned, like Oracle and whatnot. And there's various different ways that you can deploy, but there's also the whole Kubernetes, which is supported by both of these major cloud providers that we just listed. And the ways of going about to deploy to these Kubernetes environments could be via customized or Helm charts. So yeah, there's a lot there. So I don't know if this is, again, going back to docs, because I think this is all in the docs. So I think, just like being able to, if we need to clarify something, maybe if they can point it out, that might be a good talk here. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's probably the best place that you're going to find like what most things are being supported by Spinnaker, or probably the docs. And then as for the second question, which was, do you remember what I said? I don't know. How do you manage the deployments in Spinnaker? For the most part, we don't really manage so once the deployment is done, like we don't really, I don't really just manage the deployment. I usually go through the Kubernetes, because like we do deployments through Kubernetes. So I just use Kubernetes to like investigate, look at, and see like if the pods are running or whatnot, or look at the logging there. So I don't really use Spinnaker as a management. I use it more of just a deployment service. But like I said, there might be many use cases there. My way is definitely not the only way. So
the Spinnaker has the server groups, and you can manage it. I think the default has changed in the last few releases to read only for those.
Oh, okay.
So if you can select the deployment and then say roll back one version or two versions, or you can say reduce the number of instance count, things like that. But the default is not to manage it. But you can enable it with an explicit option, and then once you do that, you get those options there. I'm not sure if that's the question. I think maybe your first answer may be the right one, where it does support different templating tools like Customize, Helm is supported. The deployment object, the Kubernetes native options of Recreate or rolling update stuff is built into that. And with the replica set, it's supported for the blue-green, but most people don't use that one.
Cool. So so that's pretty much like, I hope that answers his or her question. So if it doesn't, please let us know. So something that I wanted to talk about, which actually David brought to my attention yesterday. I didn't know this, but I didn't know that the AWS cloud driver I didn't know that it was using actually V1 of the SDK. And I think it's a good shout out that if we can move to V2, so if someone's willing to make that work, because it's going to be a little bit of work. There's a lot of code there, and V2 is pretty different in how it manages like configuration, like how it does like injects with. So clients in the V2 of the AWS Java SDK, for instance, is region bound. As before, like, so if you talk to a regionless service like S3 or whatnot, it would actually figure out like where to go, like which region. But in V2, that's not the case. So there might need to be some sort of abstractions there where we might have to like kind of figure out how we get to the correct place or the correct region. But that's definitely a call out that I wanted to make here specifically is looking to get someone to, potentially look at how much work or even, see if they're willing to make a contribution back to the community. Because getting V2 there would be huge. Because I know probably AWS, like knowing their deprecation life cycles, like after about a year, they'll probably stop actually rolling out new changes to the SDK. So it'd be good to get someone that would be willing to make that contribution.
Okay, we have a question from Ashley. Can you perhaps advise how we can go about constructing our own BOM to test the Debian packages?
I don't know how to do this off the top of my head, but the bombs are all published in Google Cloud Storage. Maybe Cameron can dig up a link and send it around. Sorry, I don't have. Well, so the question is like how to try out. I think the question is about how to try out new unreleased stuff, and I think I said before that the way to do that is to make your own bomb, and so I don't actually know exactly what to type with my own two hands. But what I would do is download an existing bomb, and then start adjusting it. I'm pretty sure what's in the bomb are Docker tags and other version numbers, and I just haven't done it with Debian packages, so I'm really shooting in the dark. But I think if you do some pattern matching, it will all come together. Sorry, that's the best I got right now. I mean, there's there's a Git repo called build tool, github.com/spinnaker/build tool, and there's even a README for it, and this is what we use to construct the releases. It has like a build bomb command, and you could potentially try that out. But those are the same bombs that are uploaded to GCS. So I would ignore what I just said and download a bomb from GCS and start editing.
Yeah. So if you know the versions, I think you can specify which bomb to use locally.
Yeah, it's based on like Git hash and also Maven artifact version.
Yeah, that would be a good exercise to figure out and publish the doc for that.
Yeah, and by all means, please write if you figure it out, write it down and tell us. We would love to know.
Yeah. Sorry? No, it's fine.
Is there anybody from Autodesks here today still? They're one of the people that I got the sense that they have an Argo rollouts integration, so I wanted to try to hit them up, but I think maybe I lost my chance.
AWS V2 in April.
Let me send it to you from. Hang on a minute. I'm actually not going to send you a GitHub link, but I am going to send you a Google Cloud Storage link.
Cool. So in terms of, so I think like for the main points of Google Cloud, AWS, and Kubernetes at least, like we have a lot of like, I can speak for myself in this regards. Like I can't speak for everyone, but that's where like a lot of our knowledge resides. But with Debian, like I'm a little hesitant, like even still how that would work. Just because I'm worried that some dependencies might require other dependencies because like Debian packages, they're actually going to be linking to one another. So I'm just kind of curious like how that's going to work. Like being able to just change things, they might not line up properly, but I could be wrong. Yeah. Okay.
His question was to EKS, right? I think
No, this is for Debian. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, me neither. Okay. So was there anything else? Because I think that's pretty much like what we wanted to talk. Well, major thing for me was actually getting AWS, the SDK up to V2 and getting more testing, especially for like the AWS and Google Cloud providers. So if there's nothing else, I think that's pretty much it. Is that it? Oh, we got one more. All right.
What are all the cloud environments mostly supported by Spinnaker?
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty much like every cloud provider lives in Cloud Driver from what I know. So, yeah, so I mean, there's Google Cloud, there's Oracle, there's Cloud Driver, and then yeah, there's basically everything. So, and if it's not there, I'd be surprised, to be honest.
there was a Huawei also.
Yeah, what is supported? Yeah.
I rephrased it. Let me.
Oh, okay.
What are all the cloud environments mostly support Spinnaker?
Mostly support. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. All right. Backwards. All right. So I know EKS has no issues running Spinnaker, like AWS EKS, which I imagine if the cloud provider supports Kubernetes, you can definitely run Spinnaker. And then even with that said, I would say even if the cloud provider has bare metal or just an instance concept, you can even run Spinnaker. There's no limitations there. And in terms of like test or like what we've tried and what we've done, I would say like EKS and Google Cloud, I would say are have no issues running Spinnaker.
Yeah, we installed the Spinnaker on OpenShift on-prem, AWS, GKE of course, AKS, EKS, straight Kubernetes running in AWS. That's not the managed EKS.
Yeah.
So if it is Kubernetes, it generally works. There were some tweaks that were required for security policies that may be there in the Kubernetes environments, but those are generally minor and you can make it work.
And it's obviously going to be very different from company to company too. Like you're going to probably have different network policies that you might need, different IAM roles, depending on what your security team wants. So, but like with all that said and done, like AWS is a very powerful cloud provider. So is Google Cloud. So if you're thinking about like leaning towards like choosing one, if that's like what this question is more about, then yeah, just any of those major cloud providers would be perfectly fine in running Spinnaker. Cool. All right, was that all we had for questions? Oh, we have one more.
Just a very minor one.
Oh, okay.
Would there be any? So, are we formally having it as a SIG cloud, or are we going to continue to retain like the subcomponents of AWS and stuff? I know that there was
A little bit of talk about that. So, talking with Cameron a little bit, I think it makes the most sense. Sometimes, like when I'm running even the AWS SIG, there'd be 0 people in there. And I don't know if that was true for the Google Cloud ones, but like, and I know like when I was joining the Kubernetes SIGs, there'd only be me and sometimes one other person in there as well. So I think getting more people and then also collaborating them, because like AWS problems are gonna also exist in Google. Like they're basically the same deals, just different APIs, right? So and then I'm sure like the problems that AWS has, like I'm sure like the less technical ones, but like wanting to support something is probably going to be true. Like, oh, we'd be like, oh, we just supported this new AWS feature, and then Google Cloud might be like, oh, we also have that feature. We might want to implement it. So I definitely want to consolidate into a single SIG as cloud, but maybe keeping Kubernetes separate. Like, I don't know, that's up to Cameron, but we can definitely include Kubernetes as well but we might have to call it like Cloudnetes. There we go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even the Google one, there are 2-3 people that show up. Part of the reason could also be because we didn't have release for a few months. But once you start, like today, we see some issues with 129, so people come. But I do like the idea, combine these things and see how the participation is, and if we need more than an hour during the period, then we can break them up.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, no worries. Can I create the Slack channel real quick then? Because that's something I'd like to form.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So I think that pretty much wraps it up, right? All right. I think we're good. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. And then we'll go ahead and update everything to now point to like this new Cloud SIG, make sure we update the calendars, and then update, like whether or not we're using Zoom or Google Cloud and all that jazz, or Google Meets, and then be sure to get everyone invited that's already on those lists. Cool. All right, thanks everyone.